My name is John Guamu. I run Good Gate Media and Red and Black Films. Good Gate Media is a interactive film company, and Red and Black Films is my traditional linear film and television company. Red and Black has been, and myself as a producer, making films since 2005. Our first film had a British Independent Film Award nomination and 6 BAFTA Cymru nominations. We won 2, I think. Then we made, it was a long hiatus, we made a film then 6 years after that almost, called The Machine. And thank God for us, that film did pretty well. We premiered in Tribeca with it. We got 2 British Independent Film Award nominations. We won 1. We won 3 BAFTA Cymru awards. We played all around the world with it. That really gave the whole, myself as a producer, a real kickstart to start expanding into different things. I distributed that film as well, and we won a distribution award in the Screen Awards for it. So it was a very formative experience for me, that film. And that then piece of IP that we developed then got picked up by Universal, who then made a $9 million TV pilot out of the IP, which didn't go to series, but was my foot in the door with the kind of bigger world of larger budgeted television, which is something we're progressing in as well now. Coming out of the pandemic for me really means I can go back in time to where I thought I would be back in March. We had released a film called The Complex. The Complex has become the most successful interactive film ever released by our distributors, who is a specialist in interactive film. Done really well for us. I bet the house on it, working. And you know, I chose the project very strategically and approached the packaging of the project very strategically, knowing that we had distribution pipelines on Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Steam. So coming out of this side of COVID now, or beginning to emerge from it, tentatively sticking, you know, our toes out of the door into the freezing cold, which may or may not be wolves out there, we'll see. But I'm just, you know, really trying to get back to where I thought we would be. As soon as lockdown happened, like every creative and producer out there, we realized that there was, you know, what seemed like an existential threat to the business and to being able to make films. And, you know, this story really then started with where all good stories start, which is with Mum. So I went to see Mum and she was like, well, here, Michael Sheen's making this movie over webcam and what have you. Why don't you do something like that? And I was like, well, yeah, okay. I was like, then slowly started to get my head around that and started talking to other people about it, started watching films that had been done in a scenario like this, which was controllable. And if COVID did cause us to lock down fully, I needed as a producer to be treating my investors' money in a responsible way that I knew that I could deliver what I said I was going to deliver, even in a very hostile environment, and not take any risks and well, not take unnecessary risks anyway, but also do something that was hopefully commercially viable, not just shooting for the sake of shooting it. And in that whole melee of, you know, the gases coalescing, I had a chat with my director of The Complex, and he's a young man. He's 27 years old. He's out in the modern world of dating. And there's this thing, you know, there's video dating is a format. And as soon as I'd realized that, I thought, video dating is that interesting that I wonder, beyond COVID, whether that will actually start to be woven into the fabric of the dating world, almost as a pre-date. You know, you start dating someone, why go for a meal to find out some person, you know, you don't like them or share the same views as them, when you can do that pre-date actually like this, in the comfort of your own home, whether with or without COVID. So we then kind of devised an interactive romantic comedy based on that setup called 5 Dates. That then converged with another theory I had, which was, of course, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's worried, everyone's not going out generally, and everyone's wondering how to do things. And I thought, if I can present an opportunity to actors to be able to, you know, act and do something fun, good and contemporary and reactive, then hopefully we'll manage to maybe bring in some cast who, you know, at a lower budget we maybe wouldn't be able to reach, but now maybe we can. And that's what ended up happening. We ended up bringing in, you know, Georgia Hurst from Vikings, Mandip Gill from Doctor Who, Tahim Modek from Maisie Williams' new show, Marissa Arbella from Industry, Lena Dunham show, the HBO BBC show, and you know, just some like really quality talent, and they have been an amazing melting pot. It's the first time I've worked with some, you know, young people as a group in that age group, and of course you just forget how much energy they've got. It's brilliant. You know, we've got an artist called Sinead Hartnett who's also working on the show, who's like, you know, got songs with 40 million views on them. Amazing group of people basically, and the energy on set was very much can do, and I really enjoyed it as an experimental experience. But the end result is super cool. Like we just finished the trailer. The film gets released this month, and well, actually, it's been pushed back a week to the 3rd of November. And just the energy off the trailer, and it just makes you smile. Like there are a bunch of people in a rom-com. We are where we are now in COVID. Everyone's a bit, you know, down in the mouth, and it's just a different energy. So what has come out of that for me, and the mess we were in, was I leant into the opposite and what we could do, and I think we pulled it off. We will see. Yeah. All the producer strategies at the beginning of this mess of COVID that was very similar, which was, okay, well, we can get to actors, they'll read our scripts, and, you know, that gets the front of the queue because they've got more time than they normally would have. And everyone kind of employed that strategy, basically, it seemed to me. And so we, you know, my head, or either that or going deep into development, you know, and you know, using that time very wisely, which is a smart thing to do. And so in the deep development route, personally, we've had a TV project called Yellow, which is with Odiri Iwuji and Nene, who's writing it. Nene Iwuji, great detective show set in Nigeria. So we've kind of gone headlong into development on that, put a lot of energy and time behind that, and now we're starting to package it with some quite exciting people. I've got, I suppose, what it has highlighted for me is that the projects that I really care about and those I don't. And, you know, that's perhaps a harsh thing to say, but you realize what you really care about is, I suppose, the positive to take from that, and what I want to put my heart and soul into. And there are projects in there that what remains standing, my full weight is behind. And, you know, that is sorting the wheat from the chaff. It's been a good period for that. It's like, what do I really want to do? You know, this has been a good period for that. We've been crazy busy. It's, you know, we're in production on 2 films concurrently right now. We've got one shooting outside during lockdown. We've got one shooting inside. The lead actress is in Paris. We've got Colin Salmon in it, and a wonderful actress, a French actress who's in Avenue 5, Armando Iannucci's show called Julie Dre. And she's shooting right now over Zoom like this. That is happening with my head of production running that at the moment. So the period for me, my interactive films, we've just had to make them smaller to be responsible. And my development slate, I've really focused on what I really want to do. And yeah, it's been as busy as ever, really. I feel very fortunate in where I am, in the sense that, you know, I'm not just a black person in Britain, I'm a black person in Wales, and Wales proportionally has certainly got, you know, less people of colour than London, you know, which is much more of a melting pot. And, you know, by extension, Britain is a lot more racially harmonious than a place like America. So, you know, I don't feel, look, I'm aware that prejudice is out there. I do tend to bulldoze through it a lot. And I'm also blessed in the sense that I'm not employed by someone. And that is a very different position to be in. I've always been self-employed. I've always been self-employed since I was 16. Really, I was a professional poker player. I then became a property developer. I then went into television, film. You know, now, if you contrast that with someone who has got a boss above them, who has got some kind of motivation against them, then that's a horrible environment I can't even imagine to be in. And for all those reasons, I feel very lucky to be where I am. you know, not to get off point too much, I suppose, but the opportunities, I suppose, that are now come to the fore is, you know, it's wonderful, and I, you know, I will be pursuing every opportunity we can as a Black-owned business. And I suppose what I would say is that it's important that the gatekeepers start to reflect society properly, whether that's women or being disabled or being of an ethnic minority of a certain kind, or a, you know, orientation in terms of who you're attracted to, whatever that is. Our gatekeepers just need to represent that. And I, you know, luckily now I'm getting into a position where I am that gatekeeper. I can greenlight stuff myself, and, you know, I don't intend to disproportionately tell stories that are of a certain ilk, although I am naturally interested in stories about immigration because my father was an immigrant, and, you know, Nigerian stories, like I mentioned with Yellow. There'll be a natural leaning to where my heart goes. And you can only really do stuff you're passionate about, and, you know, to an extent, it's up to me to fight that corner, that naturally marries with what your own interests are, and I'm sure it's, you know, I'm sure it's the same for many different types of people. But yeah, you know, I'm very keen to rebalance what I can. I've got a special interest in economic diversity, and I think that, you know, my mum was from a coal mining town. And you know, still lower middle class background, but nevertheless, you know, was from quite a poor place. And, you know, I grew up in, you know, an ex-mining town myself, and so giving people opportunities who come from disadvantaged backgrounds like that, and there's of course crossover into ethnicity there as well, and that happens. But I think, yeah, you know, the current environment is a good place to be, and it is good that it's getting the attention that it is. It's just sad that America's in the way that it is currently. I must admit that during the period of lockdown, when it happened first, from a personal point of view, I was obviously very frustrated, as most people were, not to be able to go to the office. I'm used to, you know, getting up at 6:30 and staying here in this office till 6:30. You know, I do 12-hour days generally, and that's kind of, so I used to be more of a workaholic before I had a little one, because I'd work weekends as well, and now I don't do that as much, because otherwise, you know, I'm going to get in trouble at home. So there was, anyway, my point is there was a frustration about not being able to do that. But then I got my work life sorted in my house, and what I noticed by having my daughter home and being with my wife is that you can spend a lot more time with your family and the people that you care about. And although there is a tension of someone who's 3 years old and shouting at you once your time while you're on a video call like this, and, you know, that is very difficult, but the blend of that for all of us in these environments has been actually very grounding, I think, and has shown you a more human side about me to other people, and to other people to me, in terms of, oh, they've got lives as well. They've got, you know, 7-year-old running around the background giving them shit, and, you know, doors slamming around the house, and, you know, various things, and it kind of humanized people. And I think that as much as this period has been one of great frustration for a lot of people, I think it has shown us that we're all vulnerable and human, and that we have to try and have more compassion, which is something important to remind myself of, you know, on a daily basis. I think the question of what comes out of television next, my instinct tells me that the most successful shows moving forward, post-COVID or coming out the tail end of it, are going to be things that lean into a much more warm and happy world that we'll want to see on cameras, you know, in front of us, is what I would think. You know, I can only judge by my own instincts and what I want to see, but I know when I saw the 5 Days trailer, I was really happy. And that I noticed that feeling was something I don't feel all the time. And I was like, that's interesting. This is a good feeling. And I forget, you know, you forget how much that's missing in the current environment, really. We've got a show which it's been in development for a little while now, which is in a dystopian, you know, future where a lot of the things that have come to pass are in the script as fiction, and now they're fact. And I'm just like, do I really want to make that? It's become a documentary. You know, the fiction has become, you know, what is real. And it's just like, feels very prescient and everything. And, you know, pat on the back for having the foresight to see it. But at the same time, do you really want to see that as entertainment? I'm not sure I do as much. Not ever, but just not as much. If you're looking at the whole gamut of entertainment, then I think there will be a leaning towards the positive now, I suppose, to summarize. What energy of the stories people want to see will start to, weight, of course, what the commissioners want to commission and what the financiers will want to finance, because they'll start, the interest will be represented commercially. So I think that, to me, it seems, that it provides a great opportunity to swing this in a positive way in terms of the stories we tell. But ultimately, we will be driven by consumer demand, and we will see what the truth of that is. It feels to me like that is beyond logical. It just feels right that that is the case. It just feels like, who wants to be watching depressing stuff, right now? Like, some people do, don't get me wrong, but I don't. I'm not a great fan of comedies even, because I don't find many of them very funny. But now more than ever, that leaning has really kind of, I see the value of it and what that can do to benefit myself and my frame of mind, and I'm sure the same for other people. Where we are right now, with or without COVID, is a place where traditional feature film has first completely, retracted and then moved into a position now where it is growing. Before all this had happened, the independent space of film within films that are theatrically broadcast was massively shrinking. And the studios were taking up a larger and larger percentage of a supposedly growing market share of theatres, of cinema, but the independent space within that was shrinking. What this has really given the opportunity to do, the tourniquet that has been put on the whole industry, is to start thinking radically differently about how we can feed audiences and what we can give them, and the experiments we can make. Because I don't think the world is going to go back to the way it was, not in my traditional industry, which is cinema anyway. I think that people are going to be looking for more and more different types of media. And what we do with interactive is one of those spaces. Having the time to study the gaming space has been really fascinating. The gaming industry is a growth industry like no other at the moment. It's growing 10 to 12% a year. It is projected that it'll be worth 300 billion by 2025. To have a crumb off that table, which is what Goodgate currently has, is a big deal. That's all you need. And I think that the future holds lots of opportunities to progress the languages of storytelling, which is what I'm trying to do in my company. I've never really been at a point before in my entire career, since I was 19 making my first films. I was learning how to make films, but people had done that before. I was just learning. It was just me who was learning. But we're in a place now where, for interactive and what I do, everyone is learning. We're making it up as we're going along. We're obviously feeding in bits of information that we know work from the gaming world and from the feature film landscape, but it is at a nascent stage, and a new language is being developed, which is entertaining audiences. And that, to me, that's just super exciting. That's just really exciting.